Last weekend at the Las Vegas Open, Games Workshop released a whole boatload of previews showing off a lot of new models. Extremely surprising new models. They've actually shocked a lot of people, myself included. But the most surprising thing here wasn't the actual miniatures, it was something else. Because Games Workshop have played their hand. They've revealed a secret that I think is a massive mistake, and it's going to lead to a lot of problems. And we're already starting to feel the impact of that mistake right now. It's just incredibly depressing to know that this is the future. But to describe all that, I first have to talk about all the crazy new miniatures that they revealed, because they're pretty cool. Honestly, for Warhammer fans, this weekend was huge, you know, if you like new sculpts. We got like 2 entire new armies. I don't think I've ever seen anything like this before, so let's just start with the least surprising stuff first, and then we'll work ourselves up to the madness and where that big problem lies. So firstly, we have Age of Sigmar, and there wasn't anything too crazy here, except an Evanescence album cover that seems to have come alive. Wake me up, I can't wake up, etc, etc. Now, you'll never guess it, but Age of Sigmar has gotten a whole brand new centerpiece model. Wow! Shocking, I know, but this is the Age of Sigmar MO these days. Models sold at a high price point for very little plastic and minimal design work, at least when compared to a whole squad of models. Expensive and thrifty. Games Workshop's got it all. But I gotta say, I do like this model, maybe because I was there at the birth and death of Emo and was personally witness to the Spider-Man 3 side fringe. Ebony Darkness Dementia Raven Way here looks great. I love the hair covering the eyes, I love the fact that she's exclusively dressed in ribbons, and I love the fact that, of course, there are ravens here because this is incredibly dark and very adult, and you just wouldn't get it. The only downside is that she's positioned on generic elf terrain. Where the heck's the gargoyle? And to be serious for a little hot second, the wings don't look very good here. I think they look very plasticky. This is a classic Games Workshop problem. They always struggle to make natural hairs and furs and feathers look good. But even worse, there's a huge problem here, and that's that this miniature is created to coincide with a whole new book, Shadow of the Crone, aka Dawnbringers, book 5? Which I gotta say, as someone who doesn't play Age of Sigmar often and isn't enmeshed in the ecosystem and on Cup 3 of the Kool-Aid, this is the least appealing thing that I could possibly hear if I was ever tempted to buy into the game. Like, seriously, book 5 of the Dawnbringers. So, like, what does that mean? Do I need to buy 4 more books to pick this one up? That, of course, would be after I've already picked up the Codex and a rulebook, all just to get the rules for this one model. Oh, and apparently this new book includes the rules for the 4th part of the Twin-Tailed Crusade Path to Glory pack. So where the hell do I find the rest of that? Seriously, this is the season model writ large, and already the problems of it are pretty evident. I've been a critic of the season model since the very beginning, and this is one of the many reasons why. It makes the game incredibly unattractive to new people. It's like throwing a bucket of cold piss over any potential enthusiasm that I can muster for the game. It's replicating the comic book problem. No, not that one. My issue is that there's just way too much upfront investment required to start catching up to the new season. So for new folk, it can just kill all interest. It feels totally inaccessible. But wait, there's more, because on top of all that, this model is only available in a bundle, and it's barely even a bundle. It's just the basic witch elves, which are, okay, admittedly, pretty bitchin' models, and also these 5 dudes on horses alongside the character Ebony Darkness Dementia Way. And I'm gonna be real, if you're somebody that's interested in this miniature, then you probably already have the witch elves. So this just all feels a bit skeevy, like it's a sneaky way for Games Workshop to get hobbyists to rebuy models that they already own. Just very naked attempt at squeezing a little bit of money out of people. So the model is a smash, but the book and bundle, yeah, that's a hard pass for me, Chief. Then related to that is the new Warcry box. Yes, there is another, and this time it's spooky ghost skeletons in the ring with some elf boys. I really can't emphasize enough that it really does feel like it's just some elves. I mean, don't get me wrong, the box looks okay. The skeleton wraith dudes look pretty cool. There's some Nighthaunt, they've got some armor. I guess they're armored ghosts, which feels a little bit weird, but they do look cool. Nighthaunts always do, and their silhouette is, as usual, pretty striking. It's pretty unusual, but I gotta be honest, Nighthaunts are starting to feel a little bit samey. They were really, really unusual when they first came out, but with every new release, with all that repeated exposure, they're just growing less impressive. It's like the scary movies, you know? First one was great, second one was okay, third one, fourth one, fifth one. I mean, it just started to be the same thing over and over again. That's the Nighthaunt and horror theme, right? It all works. But the elves are even worse. They really just don't do it for me. They genuinely look like they were interrupted while getting dressed for their own box set. One of them should be sculpted pulling on some pants and dancing around his tent in one foot, a slice of lambus toast in his mouth. I think it says a lot about this box that I've seen it talked about around on the internet, but mostly because there's this random bit of terrain that finally confirms that the old ones were indeed giant frog boys. That's the thing that everyone is obsessed with, a little bit of lore. Yeah, this is gonna be a pass for me. But that's not the end of fantasy. Oh no, because the old world is back. It just launched and already we're getting another bundle box. Is anyone else catching a theme yet? This time, Games Workshop have showed off some orcs. Like, some actual new orcs, not swampy hobgoblins. It's sure been a minute. And there's even a few new models here. These aren't all old. There's a new war boss and a new named character. The new war boss looks great. Now, he might be an older model. His face feels a bit softer and a tad off. Sort of like that time when ACOM Animation Studio was outsourced by Warner Brothers to draw Joker for Batman the Animated Series. There's a reference everyone will get. I mean, it looks the same, but there's just something off that I can't put my finger on. Kind of like a Cromlech model. There we go. Now we're back in wargame territory. Regardless, I do like his pose, and his axe is good. It's pretty big. You can't go wrong with a big axe. Just ask the Axeman of New Orleans. He sure loved murdering. The new named character is Ogdra's Swamp Digger. Basically the guy that mines the bogs then. And he's pretty cool. I especially love his big staff. The lobster claw on it is just perfect, and honestly, I think the strange kind of driftwood head is a fantastic design. And hey, he's even got a troll head for a helmet. Nice. But of course, the belle of the ball on this one is the actual orc release. The orc lads, the boys. Boys, as in boy, these models are old. I mean, I like the orcs, don't get me wrong, but the model proportions were always, you know, they're a little bit off. They're always a little bit weird to me. I think they're one of the weaker looking armies. I don't know if they've really stood the test of time. And to head off any potential hit mobs here, I do think there is a charm to them. They look like little nugget guys. I think that's fun. Their proportions are really weird, and they're a very cartoony faction. I really like the hog boys. I think those are pretty cool. The chariots though, they look a bit, yeah, they look a bit like this. Yeah, I think these have lost some of their charm. I never played orcs in Warhammer Fantasy, but I did have a friend who played an oops, all goblins army back in the day, so I hope he's excited. Alas, as always, there is a dark side to this moon, because it seems like Games Workshop have only really shown off these orc boys in relation to the new bundle that's coming out. And it feels like the bundle is the only way to get new orc troops, which raises the very scary question of, is this the only way that you're gonna be able to buy new troops for the old world? Can they only be bought in bundles? Is this just the future of the old world? Every few months we're gonna get like 2 new models, some resin releases, a made to order of the old metal stuff, and then an expensive army box. And if so, I'm not surprised, but I am disappointed. At the time of recording, Bretonnia and Tomb Kings still can't be bought outside their massive bundle. You know, if you want to buy like the core infantry. And I was really hoping that by release, everything would have been made available. So I think that this business model is going to really hurt the game Warhammer, the old world. The price point is just too high. It's too much of an investment for prospective new players, and I'm worried that the old world is going to struggle to sell outside of the small community of fantasy hardcore players, which is a real pity because I think it could be a breakout hit if given more support. At least in the orc bundle though, there's no rulebook or anything, it's just orc models, so hopefully that means it's substantially cheaper than the Bretonnia and Tomb King releases. Hopefully. Fingers crossed. Yes, I'm hoping that a Games Workshop release is cheaper. Yes, I know what that means. Yes, I'm a big dummy. Next up was a huge reveal. Are you an Imperial Guard player? Well, surprise, new minis. That's right. There's an entire new line of models coming out for the Astra Militarum out of nowhere. Okay, right, a little bit of a lie. Technically, these are releases for the Solar Auxilia in Horus Heresy for, you know, the Horus Heresy game or whatever. But let's be real, we all know that it's going to be the Mordian's Glory subscribers out there that are mostly picking these bad boys up. I've seen a lot of Guard players extremely excited to buy these new models. Now, I'm going to be really controversial here and say, I don't really like these models. Wait. Put down the pitchforks, please. I think that the tanks look fantastic, specifically the Chimera. Sorry, I mean the Draco-san. Boy, there's a lot of My Immortal references in this video. And the Leman Russ looks great. It's just a lovely kit. 10 out of 10, no notes. Okay, one note, there's no side sponsons, meaning that it will be hard to use in 40k. But just have a cool opponent, explain to them what you've got, things should be fine. The Malkador as well is a real beauty. Now I know why Tim Allen was trying to build that hot rod in his garage. It was his Malkador. The profile of this tank is really interesting, and it has a side sponson that is easier to transport to distant games as well. That's pretty nice, at least compared to the existing side sponsons on most of the other Astra Militarum stuff. But then we come to this thing. This is the Sentinel, and everyone I've spoken to loves this, and it's kind of driving me nuts because I think it looks super dumb. And I put the Sidonian Stilt Cross as my number 3 best miniature of the year, so you know this has to be bad. It's so top heavy. It literally reminds me of Frankenstein with the massive forehead, for real. No thank you. Keep the old Sentinels in the year 30,000 where they belong. But then the release kind of gets worse because I don't think that the infantry for the Solar Auxilia look good either. I mean, I sort of like their goofy helmets. I kind of get the Turnip 28 mixed with Space Weirdos vibe that they seem to be going for. But I think that the models overall are let down by all the wires on the arms and the weird metal braces that they have on their waist and their legs. Kind of like scrap raiders or something, you know? It just doesn't work for me. I would have much preferred if these models were either more armored and GW went all in on a cosmonaut look, or if instead Games Workshop went for a medieval metal braces and wires vibe. I think that could have been cool, but right now they feel like two distinct kits smashed into one another, and it just doesn't work. Pass for me, I'm afraid. That said, lots of people are really excited for this, and as a Guard player, this was definitely a highlight of the event for me. But big warning here, there is a sting in this tail. If you want to buy these models for 40k, and there's currently rules for them, be warned that the moment that the new Guard Codex comes out, probably 5 minutes before the launch of 11th edition, the Malkador and others are going to get dropped entirely from 40k. Now this isn't a 100% certainty, this hasn't been announced, but it did happen to the Space Marine community. A bunch of their Horus Heresy models that were previously usable in 40k got dropped without warning, so I suspect that the exact same thing will happen again here, although it's not mentioned or highlighted by Games Workshop at all. But buyer beware, that's why I'm here to warn you, so subscribe to the channel if you want to avoid more problems, like a brick through your window. Only pick these up for 40k if you're happy to use them as proxies. And yet, in a release of those little guys, they're not even the wildest release of the weekend, because we got to see my deepest dream realized. Kroots! A lot of Kroots! We're getting a Kroot troop choice. A Kroot troop. A Kroot troop choice, yeah. Weapons platforms and Krootox riders. Okay, that word was easier to say. I think they all look great, personally. Kroot have a very specific vibe, so I know there's like 12 people out there who are extremely excited right now. I'm the 7th. But my internal Irish cynicism can't help but think that this amount of Kroot were put together so that they could all be bundled together in a specific army set. Specifically, this specific army set. Because, yeah, obviously, that's happening now. Boo. But new Kroot is cool, and they feel like they've been a long time coming. Some of them look a little bit monopose, some of them look a little bit basic, but overall, I like them. And apparently, this ain't even it. Games Workshop have said that there's more Kroot coming. My bet that it's probably just another character model. Games Workshop really do love those because they can charge $30 for a single miniature. But I hope that it's new Kroot hounds. That'd be really nice to see. And honestly, I'm just kind of happy to see the Tau slowly inch their way into a new design direction of being a coalition of different Xenos forces rather than just the shooty faction. Because playing against the shooty faction isn't that fun. One thing though, I gotta ask, Games Workshop, where the hell's my Vespids? Give me my Vespids. They're looking pretty old. I need my Vespids. Still, new Kroot, smash. But the fun and games must end because we have finally arrived at the end to the Drew Carry. Yes, Dark Eldar, they're getting new models. And this is very special because the Dark Eldar very rarely get new models and they need a lot of new models. Like right now, half the army don't have official models. Where's my fucking snake people, Games Workshop, huh? How am I meant to do a Court of the Archon? All I got is the Archon. He's not even a good Archon, he's a rubbish Archon. Replace that Archon model. And another thing, let him take his bodyguard, Games Workshop. Okay, we're putting the Dark Eldar back on a box. We're not gonna talk about Dark Eldar. That'll be like its own video someday. Anyway, Dark Eldar, they're getting something new. And it's not just an upgrade sprue like last time. Sadly though, this is where the trouble starts. Damn smile. See, the revealed models are mandrakes, and I know you've never heard of them before, but they're basically spooky, scary guys, and the new models look cool. They look like mandrakes. Not the plant, not the dragon. Personally though, I thought the old models looked fine. Honestly, they weren't one of the things that needed to be updated in the Dark Eldar Codex. They had a really strong design direction that has really withstood the test of time. And I think that the new models continue to look fine. They look pretty much the same. They're okay. But there's a big problem here, because these aren't a Warhammer 40k release. They're a Kill Team release, at least officially, de jure. And that is really weird. I mean, not like waking up to find yourself turned into a giant cockroach weird, but it's pretty odd. Because these shouldn't be a Kill Team release at all. These are actually secretly a 40k release. Now, obviously, Kill Team is set in the 40k setting, but what I mean by this is there is a difference between a Warhammer 40k the miniatures game release and a Warhammer 40k Kill Team release, or at least there should be, because Kill Team, I hate to break it, the Games Workshop, is a different game from Warhammer 40k. Kill Team is a skirmish game where you get a single squad of guys as your entire force, and players can personalize the individuals in their squad, and they can name them, and each single model gets customized. And as a result, what that means is that a good Kill Team faction requires a lot of options, a lot of customization, right? Okay, you got like 10 models, you want to be able to do stuff with those 10 models. You want to make choices. Now here is the Mandrake datasheet for Warhammer 40k. Do you notice something? Yeah. Not a lot of options. Literally, no options at all. Mandrakes are quite honestly the worst possible faction for Kill Team. They are so uniform that they all wear the same uniform. They are all armed and equipped the exact same way. And they're not alone. The Kill Team release before this one had the Eldar Striking Scorpions, which are literally just Eldar in a uniform, all armed, with chainswords. Why? Why are Games Workshop releasing Kill Team strike forces that are made up of the same uniform models? The worst possible models for Kill Team. And the answer is because Kill Team has now become a vehicle for Games Workshop to smuggle new mainline 40k models out into the general public. And they're doing that because the Warhammer 40k release hype cycle is so f***ed right now that it's impossible to release models otherwise. Think about it. What new Warhammer 40k releases even come out anymore? We either get A, a very specific character model, or B, a massive early access exclusive bundle box, sometimes consisting of either a whole new faction or a total faction refresh or something crazy like new Kroot. But outside of that, we get nothing. Games Workshop just won't release new squads of infantry for Warhammer 40k anymore. And that's where Kill Team comes in. Kill Team has been co-opted to push out models that we wouldn't see in 40k otherwise, like a Mandrake refresh, or a Striking Scorpion refresh, or a Night Lord's upgrade sprue, which also comes in the box. I literally don't care. Hell, why were Khazarkin a Kill Team release? I mean, that's weird, right? Like, they should have just been a Warhammer 40k release that was able to be used in Kill Team. And it feels like a massive disservice to Kill Team. It's almost like the mainline 40k game is wearing its face and parading around in a flesh suit that looks kind of orange for some reason. And sure, the Mandrakes look like they might have new options available to them in Kill Team because some of them have a sword and some of them have like different types of weapons, but why? Why not just make something new for that game? Why use Mandrakes? Mandrakes were cool. They were fine being a uniform option. They already had their own thing. It was called being weird and traveling through other dimensions and stuff. But okay, what's the harm? What's the harm? It only sucks if you play Kill Team. Well, no, actually, this is really bad news for everybody because it is basically the final nail in the coffin for releases of Warhammer 40k. It goes to show that things are never going to change. It looks like the future of Warhammer 40k is endless army box sets, pushing the price point of Warhammer ever upwards, because if anyone wants to buy any new major releases, then they're gonna need to buy a massive bundle, and the few releases that do come out outside of those bundles will be taking the space of a totally different game in the release schedule. Essentially, everyone loses, except for Games Workshop. I mean, they get to have their cake and eat it too. Boy, they sure love their unreasonable profit margins. But I don't know, what do you think? Are Games Workshop using Kill Team as a dumping ground for new 40k releases? Really looks like it to me, but let me know in the comments below and check out my thoughts and hopes for the old world here. Check out my Patreon at patreon.com/discourseminis and help support my content and continue to create some buyer beware videos like this. I couldn't do it without you. And a massive thanks to my patrons, especially CryptoKev, Novity, and Travis Hunter. Thank you so much, guys. I'll see y'all next time. Bye-bye.